these hands, I can't hold them up high enough. Yee-haw. Anyway, these hands are attached to a body that's a little bit weird too. Yeah. It makes life interesting. Like, I'm a problem to people. Mostly to little kids. They're really cute and they're really fun. And they always want to help. They want to do something. Anyway. Adults too, though. Like everybody, if I ask for help, and I mean, almost everyone is right there for me. That's not even a thing. But, yeah, it's really interesting. All these people are there to help me, and yet I don't want it. I'm trying to be independent. So, yeah. As I try to be independent, though, it turns out my whole life is basically a physics lesson. Like, that's my problem, is the physics. Like, this whole world, you know, opening a door is built physics-wise. Like, just all the different doorknobs, whatever, is built for your hands, not mine. I can't grab it right. I have to think about how I'm going to grab each one. There's times when I have to blow, like, moist air onto my hand to get it enough grip to turn some of these knobs. Certain kinds of metal that they make doorknobs out of, my hand is always too dry to grab it, so I have to grab two hands or whatever. The closest thing I have now to, like, built for me is the door handle instead of a door knob. And yeah, I mean, that's just opening doors. The rest of it is out there too. You know, there's always something different. And one of my favorite parts of this whole problem has been to build bikes that I can ride. I learned how to ride a bike on my brother's bike. It was a huge bike, and it had sweeping back handlebars. And I could reach them because they, you know, and then, the other thing was it had a huge fender. And so I could sit on the fender. I couldn't actually get on the seat. It was too tall, and I couldn't get I didn't trust myself. I couldn't touch my legs to the ground. And so I started out just sitting on this fender with my stomach leaned over the seat. And then I started getting a sense of balance, like how it would work. And I think I talked to my mom and my dad or somebody about, you know, what you do. And I heard that, you know, whichever way you start falling, you're supposed to turn the handlebars that way and it'll catch you. And, you know, I learned all the basic physics, but it was all on my brother's bike and never pedaling. Like I couldn't reach the pedals when I was doing that, so I was just walking with the bike and sliding along. So all of that happened, and then I learned how to ride my sister's bike. My friend Corey lived in the same trailer park as me at the time, and he saw me on my brother's big bike, and he told me to try my sister's one day. And so I did, because she had like a banana seat, and he told me you're supposed to pedal, and so you put one foot on the pedal, and then you know, and so I got pretty good at that. I would borrow her bike, and then I would push around. With one foot, just like a scooter, but one foot on the other pedal. And then, of course, the next thing you got to do is put that second foot on the pedal. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't push up enough speed on our driveway. You know, it was gravel. There's so many different little physics things going on there, of course, but I couldn't figure it out. And then one day, I decided that I'm going to try to go down the hill. Like, maybe, you know, it was actually Corey's idea, and he said, why don't we just go down the hill? And so I told him to stay right by me, and I started moving, and it scared me. Like, I didn't know how to deal with the speed yet, and I was going too fast too soon, and so I said, no, 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 it's going too fast, and I didn't know how to stop, all of this stuff. So we tried it on his driveway, kind of led down a little gentler slope towards the main road. So for one thing, I was off the main road now, and there was also a gentle slope. And so finally, I did it. I got enough speed, and I got my second foot on the pedal, and I went around once. And I was so proud of myself. I stopped, and I was like, I did it, Corey, I did it. And he got mad at me, because that's not the point. You don't just pedal once. So yeah, that was my first lesson. And so I did that. I got it back on the bike and put it back up at the top of his hill, at the end of his driveway, and headed towards the road. And I pedaled, and I finally caught on to the physics of the bike. Like, why would I want to be pedaling? Why would I do that? And like, it pushed it. Like, that's how you get your balance. That's how you the power. That's what. Yeah. Anyway, everybody knows now why you pedal, but I didn't know at the time. That was new to me. So I pedaled, and I did it. I was so excited, and I went down the hill onto the road, and yeah, I started. I walked the bike down that long hill. I didn't know how to stop yet. I didn't know how to do anything else except pedal and then gently coast to a stop. So I waited until I was almost at the bottom of that hill, because our driveway was at the very bottom. And so, and then I actually did a turn too. So I pedaled into the driveway, and the kids were all right there with me. All my friends from that trailer park were down there, and man, it was fun. It was amazing, but it was tiring. And so I went in, and maybe I even got called in for dinner. I don't remember, but I was inside, and I guess my dad came home and got just surrounded by all the kids. Like, hey, what's going on? What's wrong with, Mitch did his bike. Mitch rode a bike. Mitch rode it. He did it. And Dad was excited, came in, and I got to go back out, and I showed him how I could ride a bike now. And it was pretty cool. And then I had to get my own bike. And the first bike I got was kind of a BMX bike. It wasn't that fancy, and I figured out how to get everything working. We adjusted things. I had to have the handlebars a little closer than normal, and it worked out great, but it was just one speed. And so when I went to, when I got, a few years later, when I decided it was time to go to college, I got another big bike, and the handlebars swept back, and it was 3 speeds. And for where I was going on campus and stuff, it was pretty good, because it's mostly flat. Like, I was fine with it. It was a great bike. But I started getting more and more into biking, and that 3-speed was more like a I don't know what you would call it nowadays, but like a cruiser. It's just one of the old Schwinn's with, just a big heavy frame. And anyway, I wrecked it. That was the big problem in the first place. Was I got in a wreck. This girl. There's a whole story there too. But yeah, so that bike disappeared, and I got my first car right after that, instead of getting another bike. So after that, it was years. But I realized from reading and things like that, one of the problems I had with that big old bike was it was hard to get up some of the hills. Like, I couldn't pedal up the hills. I was always having to walk it up hills, which was fine. I was good at walking back then, and whatever. Anyway, I decided for my next bike, after I moved back closer to my family, my brother and I thought about a few different things and tried to figure out what I could do to make a 10-speed work. And one of the first things I knew I needed to do was put a BMX handlebar on it, because those, we ended up with a mountain bike. I should go back and say that. I ended up getting a mountain bike first. And so that mountain bike was, the handlebars were too low. There was no way I could raise it up enough to where my arms could actually have strength and my back could hold me up without falling, head over heels over the front wheel. And anyway, we did figure stuff out. We got it going. The one thing is, the thing we tried there is, I couldn't, with my left hand, I couldn't reach to grab the brakes, and but I was okay with my right hand. And so what we ended up doing is we moved the brakes so that my right hand was controlling the front brake, and then we put the back brake for the rear tire. We wrapped that down and mounted it onto the bar that makes the bike a men's bike. And then the goal or the idea was that I was going to hit that with my knee. And it didn't. It worked. It worked. It was good. We had to cut it a little to make it do stuff. So we ended up having to wrap a big piece of gauze, like gauze or something. I remember there's a big padding thing because my knee was getting beat up by the brake handle. And yeah, so I got it all mostly going, and we took a pretty good bike ride out to the state park at the time in Moses Lake, Washington, and got up on the hill and looked down onto the lake. And then my brother's like, "All right, you ready to go down the hill?" And I said yes, and I looked directly to my left. It was a nice steep hill, and off I went. And here's where my first physics lesson worked with these brakes, or got taught to me the hard way. I don't know how you say that, but I tried to stop myself, and to get my knee up there to stop myself, I had to hunch my whole body forward. And as soon as I was hunched over that front wheel, it only took one decent sized bump in the grass at the park to knock me over the top of my bike, which is exactly where I went, right over the top of my bike. And that was it. I went over the top of the bike. I laid down flat, I guess. My brother Dan said, I then got ran over by my bike. So, yeah. Woo! That was pretty not fun. Not fun at all. I wandered around for like a half hour I don't think I ever blacked out, but I did walk around in a daze for a good half hour before I felt like I was waking up. And I had to go to work that day too, and so I had to get back on that stupid bike that had just knocked me over and ride it back out of the park. And it turns out later he meant let's just go back the way we came, the easy, slow slope, but I had my eye on something else, a challenge, I guess. So that was fun. Yeah, so anyway, the other thing I did, so after that bike, I can't even remember what happened to it. It might have even gotten stolen. Actually, there was one point in Moses Lake when I came out and one of my bikes was gone, and the police were pretty sure that some kids had taken it. We lived close enough to the actual Moses Lake that they probably just took it down to the docks and rode it off the end and had a good time. Woohoo! Yay for them. So anyway, I finally got ready to go to Evergreen State College. I didn't bring a bike with me. I ended up over here in Olympia where I am now, and went to Walmart, did the same thing. I got my mountain bike, I think at this time I decided to get a smaller one, instead of a men's mountain bike, I got a kid's mountain bike. And later on, that turned out to be just a genius move because it's smaller. I can actually hop off of it and control everything better. So that was a good move. But the one thing I did, I took the whole bike, and I had found, I think he found the handlebars for me. I can't remember. Maybe he did. Anyway, we went to, I took it to the bike shop at the Evergreen State College. I forget the guy's name. Really nice guy. He'd been there for years, back in 1998. Anyway, I told him what happened, what I had tried, moving things around, and, he realized that was actually a pretty good idea to move things around for me. But he had a better idea. It was cool. So he found, my first BMX handlebars that we put onto a mountain bike instead, and that raised it up so I could actually sit up higher. That was better. I think those first bikes, we just raised the stem as high as we could, and it worked well enough, or I thought it was working. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I can't remember when I got my first BMX bike, handlebars on the bike. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk. So anyway, yeah, and then instead of putting that brake where the men's bike part goes, because I told him about what happened, you know, like I slid right down. He actually noticed that we could put it, you know, we decided we're going to try and put it down where down by the axle, the back axle on the left side. And so that's what I do now, and it's worked like it's been the best thing ever. It's just a little, you know, I've heard people call it a kick brake, but something like that. I don't know. I don't know all these terms. I'm just amateur biker dude trying to have some fun. So that's what we did. We put the bike together that way. We had that, and then we got it all together, and I got out there and I was going to try the brake out, and it was cement, and it was just that smooth cement that's in the, you know, like in the warehouse part of one of the buildings at the college, and I pushed on the brake, and I stopped the wheel completely. Like I skidded a little, and I haven't been able to skid since I had that coaster brake on the first BMX bike I had. Oh my gosh, I was so happy. It was cool. It was really cool. Yeah, I had power on my brakes finally. I could actually stop without dying, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I've been biking ever since then, off and on. I have the same thing. My dad came over last spring, summer sometime, and we put together my most recent bike. And as soon as I got it all together and rode it for 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, my nephews borrowed it, and yeah, they were drunk, and they took it, and they found this really cool thing in my neighborhood. Every so often in the summer, throughout the summer, you'll see the free furniture. They found an office chair with wheels and decided they were going to tow, one was going to tow the other in the chair behind my bike, and yeah, I came out one day to ride it, and the wheel was completely bent. So anyway, I got the wheel fixed, but I haven't put it back on because I'm a dork. I'm going slow, moving, doing things. So, but yeah, that's me and bikes, and I don't know. Maybe I'll post this. You might like it. You might be interested. I'm Mitch. Talk to you later.